Pro sports is a young man's game, there's no doubt about it, with the average age of NBA players today being just 26 years old. A lot of the guys we've grown up watching are starting to show their age. Westbrook, Harden, Curry, these aren't young guys anymore. And while it may seem like Chris Paul has been here forever, or that Durant is way older than he actually is, these guys aren't even close in age to some of the oldest players in NBA history. So let's just get right into it. These are some of the oldest NBA players in league history. Hand checks, tough screens, and refs that often look the other way all contributed to making the NBA of the 90s a very physical league. Well, you just gotta ask John Stockton. At 6'1" and 170 pounds, Stockton looks like he'd struggle to make a varsity team, let alone an NBA roster. But for 19 seasons, he led the Utah Jazz to new heights, showing everyone just how resilient he could be. Of the 1,526 games Stockton could have played over his 19-year career, the point guard missed only 22 possible games, playing 17 seasons of NBA basketball without missing a single game. How's that for load management? Stockton trained like a beast, never taking a day off, even in the summer. He worked out 5 hours a day, every day. He rarely drank and never hit the clubs, devoting his entire life to being basketball ready around the clock. But insane discipline can only get you so far. Stockton was also a little lucky. Not only did he avoid serious injury throughout his career, he was also a medical marvel. A fit and healthy male has a resting heart rate anywhere between 60 and 100 beats per minute. John Stockton's resting heart rate was 35 beats per minute. This meant that even during the final moments of Game 6, while every other player on the court was sweating and trying to catch their breath, Stockton was calm, not an ounce of sweat on him, and ready to tear you apart. He played his final NBA game at 41 years and 35 days old, retiring in 2003. Just a few years later, he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. Another player that was hooping even into his 40s was Celtics legend and your granddad's favorite player, Bob Cousy. Nicknamed the Houdini of the hardwood for his, at the time, crazy handles and passing ability, Cousy was a part of the iconic Celtics dynasty of the 1950s and 60s that won everything. He picked up 6 championships alongside Bill Russell, as well as a string of solo awards, like his 13 All-Star appearances and a league MVP trophy. He even led the league in assists for 8 straight years. In 1963, at just 34 years of age, Cousy announced his retirement from the game, giving a teary-eyed farewell to a packed Boston audience. He spent the next 6 years happily retired, and it looked like we'd seen the last of Bob Cousy. Until the Cincinnati Royals reached out to the former All-Star offering him a coaching position. Cousy said yes. Soon, though, a number of the Royals players had been injured, and with the season nearing its end, Cousy decided to lace up once again for an NBA game. 6 years after he lifted his final trophy in Boston, Cousy was once again feeding passes and splitting defenses, only this time as a 41-year-old Cincinnati Royal. He played 7 games, averaging 30 minutes on the court, and finished with an average of 5 points and 10 assists. At 41 years and 150 days, he set the record for oldest player in the modern NBA, holding on to the record for 19 years. But Cousy's longevity doesn't just stop at basketball. As of today, the former point guard is still alive and well at 95 years of age. Go Bob! But who's the man who broke Cousy's longevity record? Well, he broke quite a few records in his long and illustrious career. Of course, we're talking about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. From his rookie season in 1969 to his final game 20 years later, Kareem never averaged less than 20 points a game. The 7'2" center picked up 6 league MVP awards, 11 NBA All-Defensive selections, and is tied for most All-Star selections ever at 19 total. He won 6 NBA championships, 1 with Milwaukee, and 5 as a part of the Showtime Lakers of the 80s. He was Rookie of the Year, won Finals MVP twice, led the league in blocks on 4 separate occasions, and, unsurprisingly, was a 2-time scoring leader. In his long career, Kareem won everything. By the time he played his last game at 42 years and 6 days old, Kareem was the all-time leader in points, minutes, games played, defensive rebounds, block shots, and personal fouls. He credits his longevity to an old friend, Bruce Lee. The martial artist showed Kareem the importance of stretching, and Kareem liked it so much he took a deep interest in yoga. If downward doggies is all it takes to be an NBA legend, sign me up. And while LeBron did overtake Kareem in all-time points scored, remember, Kareem chose to complete 4 years of college before making his NBA debut. Things might have looked a little different if he hadn't. And speaking of LeBron, he's another player who stunned us not just with his basketball ability, but with his unmatched longevity. The hairline may be faded, and the beard is starting to get a little gray, but LeBron James is still averaging close to 30 points per game as a 38-year-old man. His 20-year career is one of the longest in the league's history, and he doesn't look anywhere close to retiring just yet. He's a 19-time All-Star, 4-time NBA champ, and 4-time league MVP, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. He's managed to avoid any major season-ending injuries, something that can be attributed to his insane work ethic and unmatched basketball IQ. In his first 9 seasons in the NBA, Bron missed just 32 regular season matchups, an incredible feat when you consider how aggressively LeBron plays. He's not a nimble point guard playing outside the arc. He's a power forward, driving to the basket and making defensive plays night after night. Bron makes sure to maintain a consistent weight, not wanting to add too much muscle that would impact his athleticism, but still making sure he's bulky enough to go toe-to-toe with the NBA's biggest guys. And whatever he's doing is working. LeBron has a career average of 38.1 minutes per game, and while he does benefit from the modern system of load management, he by no means abuses it. The rumor around the league is that James wants to play with his son, something that currently doesn't seem that outrageous. With Bronny going into his freshman season at USC, do you think James has 5 more years in him? But if LeBron's longevity at 38 years old is impressive, wait till you see our next pick. Playing his last NBA game at 43 years and 37 days old, Vince Carter gives new meaning to the word longevity. Drafted in 1999, Vince burst onto the scene with an outrageous dunk package, rafter-reaching hops, and a reliable jump shot. Considered by many to be the next Michael Jordan, Vince ultimately fell short of the hype, never reaching any playoff success and failing to make any long-term impact on the game, except, of course, for his durability. Vince is the only player in NBA history to have played 22 seasons of NBA basketball. His career spanned over 4 decades, playing his first game in '99 and retiring in 2020. He made 8 All-Star appearances, was Rookie of the Year, and won a slam dunk contest back in 2000. He played for 8 different NBA teams, hooping as far north as Toronto and as far south as Orlando. Stepping off the court at Madison Square Garden for the final time, Vince finished his career averaging 16.7 points, 4.3 rebounds, and 3.1 assists. He was 43 years old, making him the oldest NBA player ever to play post-1999. But if we're looking for the oldest player ever to lace up for an NBA game, we gotta go back in time a bit to 1948. Nat Hickey was head coach for the Providence Steamrollers, a basketball team playing out of Rhode Island that folded just a year later. But before the organization collapsed, Hickey set a record that still stands today as the oldest player ever to play in an NBA game. He started his career back in 1921. Playing for a number of early professional teams like the Cleveland Rosenblums, the Chicago Bruins, and even the original Boston Celtics of the American Basketball League. He retired as a player in 1942 and turned his attention to coaching, but would often sub himself in as a player coach if his team needed it. In 1948, he got the job in Providence, stepping in as the head coach after Hank Soar left. On the 27th of January, 1948, he activated himself as a player against the St. Louis Bombers just 3 days shy of his 46th birthday. He attempted 6 shots, making none, and committed 5 personal fouls. He played 1 more game, this time against the New York Knickerbockers, where he didn't record anything. Despite the empty stat line, Hickey became the oldest player in NBA history at 45 years and 363 days. They say age is just a number. And looking at some of these guys, it's hard to disagree. With all the modern technology and sports science we have today, it's safe to assume that the number of 40-year-olds we're gonna see balling out might just keep increasing. And who knows, before he retires, we might even get to witness a Bronny LeBron matchup that'll certainly go down in NBA history.